Alright, so the Netherlands just absolutely crushed Sweden with a stunning 5-1 victory in their Group F clash at the 2026 World Cup. That result has left Swedish players and coaches with a massive reality check. And now, with reactions pouring in and fans buzzing all over online, we're diving deep into what exactly went wrong for Sweden and how the Dutch managed to turn their whole campaign around. Sweden's head coach, Graham Potter, didn't hold back in his post-match comments, admitting the result was a really tough pill to swallow. He told BBC Sport that while his team did create chances and attack with intent, their defensive problems just cost them too much to overcome. "You just can't concede that many and expect to win," Potter said, pretty much summing up the frustration everyone in the Swedish camp felt. That 5-1 scoreline stung, especially since just a few days earlier, Sweden had absolutely thumped Tunisia 5-1. Now, that big win is essentially wiped out from their goal difference. Potter highlighted specific issues, noting they got exposed out wide and couldn't deal with a long ball that led to the opening goal. He acknowledged the Netherlands are a good team, but insisted his own side had moments where they actually looked like the better team, only to then completely shoot themselves in the foot at crucial times. But despite the disappointment, Potter remained pretty upbeat, saying they'd learn a lot from this experience as they get ready for their final group game against Japan. While Sweden was left kicking themselves over their defensive collapse, the Netherlands was absolutely buzzing about a statement performance that totally flipped their World Cup script. Cody Gakpo and Brian Brobby both bagged a brace, with Brobby getting on the scoresheet early in the 5th and 17th minutes, and Gakpo then really stepping up in the second half with goals in the 47th and 54th. And Crescencio Somerville then popped in a 5th in the 89th minute to well and truly seal the deal. But what made this victory even more impressive? Well, the Dutch had only managed a 2-2 draw against Japan in their opener, leaving everyone scratching their heads about their form. This 5-1 demolition, though, it absolutely shut the critics up and sent a loud and clear message: the Netherlands were well and truly back in business. Analysts were quick to point out this win put them pretty much on the cusp of the knockout rounds and gave them the huge liftoff they desperately needed after that shaky start. Honestly, this triumph really came down to some clinical finishing. The Netherlands were just ruthless in front of goal, converting their chances with incredible efficiency, even though they split possession 50-50 with Sweden. Their expected goals, or XG, stat of 2.47 absolutely dwarfed Sweden's 0.98, which just goes to show you the sheer quality of their opportunities. So, the stats from this match tell a really interesting story, right? It's a classic case of effort versus execution. Sweden actually fired off more shots, 16 to the Netherlands' 10, and even had more shots on target. But here's the crazy part: they got absolutely crushed in the expected goals battle, with the Dutch sitting at 2.47 to Sweden's measly 0.99. This big difference really highlights one key thing: Sweden was creating a lot of chances, but they just weren't quality chances. The Netherlands, on the other hand, were way more clinical. They made their fewer chances count with incredible precision. Opta analyst even pointed out that Sweden gave up higher quality chances despite having more shots. That was a direct result of their defense messing up, especially during transitions and out wide. Sweden's XG was a measly 0.98, which really shows how much they struggled to create any clear-cut opportunities, even when they were pushing hard for a comeback. Anthony Elanga did manage to pull one back in the 59th minute after coming off the bench, giving the Swedes a brief moment of hope. But it was just too little, too late, especially against a Dutch side that was punishing every single mistake they made. So, the data pretty much confirms what all the fans saw out on the pitch. Sweden worked their socks off, but the Netherlands were just sharper when it really mattered. Dutch fans went absolutely wild on social media after the game, celebrating a performance that felt like a real turning point. Even though the score looked like a total blowout, Dutch fans were quick to point out that the game was actually way closer than it seemed, citing the 50-50 possession split as proof it was a really competitive match. But still, you couldn't deny the pure joy. Orange absolutely flooded the streets of Houston and all over online forums, as fans raved about Brobby and Gakpo's double-doubles. Meanwhile, in Sweden, the reaction was way more mixed. Sure, a lot of fans were giving props to Elanga for his impact off the bench and weren't ready to count their team out just yet, but others were absolutely ripping into the tactical decisions and how messy the defense was. Viral clips were popping up everywhere, showing fans asking why Sweden still struggles so much with defending out wide, a weakness Potter himself even admitted after the game. But even with all that disappointment, there was still some fight left in them. Supporters were reminding each other that Sweden actually still had a path to the last 32, with their fate riding on the Japan versus Tunisia match happening later that day. So, the big question everyone was debating was this just a blip, or a serious warning sign? Alright, looking ahead, both these teams are heading into some really crucial games in Group F, but let's be real, the heat is definitely on Sweden a lot more. The Netherlands, they're sitting pretty at the top of the group thanks to that massive 5-1 win, and that puts them completely in charge of their own fate. With a super strong squad, I mean, they've got 8 Premier League starters in there, and that fearless attacking style, the Dutch are suddenly looking like real title contenders. That's a huge shift from how everyone was talking about them before the game. Remember, they were seen as underwhelming up until then. Sweden, on the other hand, they've got to pull themselves together fast. That crushing 5-1 loss to the Netherlands totally wiped out their earlier win against Tunisia. Now, they're basically hoping other teams do them a favor if they want to go through. Coach Potter says they'll learn from this hammering, but honestly, their margin for error is now absolutely razor thin. Look, a win against Japan could still get them through, especially if Tunisia can't pull off a shocker against the Dutch in their final game. But you can't just brush off the mental impact of a thrashing like that. For Sweden, it's not just about tactics anymore, it's all about belief. Can they actually bounce back from this? Or is the damage already done? So, that's a wrap on our breakdown of the Netherlands versus Sweden fallout. A match that definitely brought the fireworks, frustration, and loads to talk about as the World Cup group stage heads into its final act. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you next time for more football action, all the insights, and the stories that make the game special.